You know how the other day I made a video talking about how Montreal Canadiens fans are obsessed with Matvei Michkov? I feel like you could say the same thing about this guy, although it's not really as obvious. Especially since a lot of Canadiens fans are, satisfied with what they have now. We can get into the psychology of fan bases being obsessed with things, but for now, what I wanted to do was focus on a name that used to have a really big spotlight in the NHL world, but whose spotlight has faded a little bit year by year, maybe to an unjustified, unfair rate. Because today, what I wanted to do was ask, what the hell happened to Shane Wright? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not an idiot. Okay, I'm kind of an idiot, but not that big of an idiot. I understand that Shane Wright is still going to be a great player, and for the Seattle Kraken, he's going to be good. It's just right now, when you think about the 2022 NHL Draft, and you think about the guys that went above Shane Wright, or some even after Shane Wright, who was selected 4th overall by the Seattle Kraken, by the way, Cutter Gauthier made headlines because he had himself that very strange development in Philadelphia. He requested a trade, he wanted out, and now he's in Anaheim, kind of talking about how he's going to be a leader, etc., etc. Logan Cooley is in the NHL doing some fantastic things for the Utah Hockey Club. Simon Nemec, same thing. And then, of course, Juraj Slafkovsky just got paid the big bucks. Every one of these guys in the top 5 has had a really interesting story to their name. For Shane Wright, I feel like the interesting story was more so from last year, 2022-2023, rather than 2023-2024. I'm not going to dismiss the quality of his play, but what I will dismiss is the attention that he was given because, quite frankly, this season, 2023-2024, was filled with a lot less drama with Shane Wright compared to his 2022-2023 year. I mean, 2022-2023, Shane Wright played for 4 different teams, bounced around with a whole bunch of playoff runs and everything. He was all over the place, and he sat out some time to get sent down to the AHL, and the Seattle Kraken had a plan, they executed it, it worked perfectly, but that was a really big talking point last year. Hey, what's going on with Shane Wright? What's the plan here? Why is he not, upset about this? Why is his family okay with this? And then everything worked out in the end, and he was a really good player for World Junior Hockey and Windsor and the OHL, etc., etc., etc. This season, though, for 2023-2024, Shane Wright had a cup of coffee with the Seattle Kraken, 8 games played, 4 goals, 1 assist for 5 points. So again, not burning off a year of that ELC right away, or at least that's how I understand it. And he also played for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, getting 47 points in 59 games played. He also was over a point per game at 13 points in 12 games in the AHL playoffs. Shane Wright, mind you, was 19 turning 20 in this season's worth of play for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and that number of points is absolutely spectacular for a guy who is that young. The Seattle Kraken may not have rushed Shane Wright's development into the NHL right away, but they still got really good value out of this pick. Now, what I also wanted to do in this video was go over some of the extra tweets that have been discussed in regards to Shane Wright, in particular, the Byron Bader model that was posted out here. This was posted by Ivan Demidov, is a Hab OMG, and I kind of pokes fun at the idea of comparing Michael Hage to Shane Wright. That's an entire other video in its own right, but what I wanted to do here was dive into Shane Wright's numbers, because when you compare his draft season, draft plus 1 season, and draft plus 2 season NHL equivalency scores, you don't get the biggest, most amazing number of points. In fact, you only have a score of 38 from his AHL production this season, which is not the best, and you actually do see in the charts below that his star probabilities do end up dipping a little bit. He now is at a 41% chance of becoming a star and an 87% chance of becoming an NHL player. 41% is not that bad, to be honest. If it was a casino game, that'd be pretty good. Just under 50%, and if you go over to some of the comparisons, this is where things become a little bit worrisome, because Shane Wright's biggest comparables are Marc-Andre Thinel, Eric Belanger, Landon Wilson, Mike Danton, and Cody Hodgson. Not really the most impressive names out there. In fact, the full comparison, so if you compare the AHL production and what happened after he got drafted, you have Sven Baertschi in there as well, not to mention Cody Hodgson. And look, these guys all have an average producer stamp beside them, that little green circle beside their name, so it's not like Shane Wright is projected to being a bad NHL player, it's just some of the models analytically don't really see him as that top guy, like we had thought he would have been. Like we thought when we said that he was going to be 1st overall in the 2022 draft, but ended up slipping to number 4. To give a big benefit of the doubt, though, when you talk about some of these comparisons, Sven Baertschi and Cody Hodgson were both derailed quite heavily by injuries, and that's not really their faults, but it certainly is something to take note of when you consider what Shane Wright is capable of doing. However, I will say, there is some optimism here in this conversation as well, because there were other analytical models that went out there and actually did have very positive results for Shane Wright. Here's a post made by Rooster Trick on Twitter. The 2022 draft class ranked 2 seasons after the draft via the Evolving Hockey's expected goals above replacement model. What this is essentially just a ranking of the 2022 guys via expected goals above replacement. And if you go by the order here, number 1, you have Simon Nemec. 2, Juraj Slafkovsky. Number 3, you actually do have Shane Wright. Now, number 4, 5, and 6, this is where things get interesting because you have Matthew Poitras, Pavel Mentyukov, and Logan Cooley, but Shane Wright is still putting his name right up in there when it comes to expected goals above replacement. What that stat indicates is the amount of goals, expected goals, that the team has when this player is on the ice versus when the player is not on the ice. Essentially, it means that Simon Nemec, Juraj Slafkovsky, and Shane Wright are boosting up the quality of their team's play when they are on the ice versus when they are not the most out of these players in the 2022 draft class. It's just a little bit different because, of course, Slafkovsky did so in the NHL, so his ranking is higher. Shane Wright's doing it in the AHL, so you can debate that it's easier, but he still is doing it to a magnitude that is better in this analytical model than most of the other prospects in the 2022 draft, some of whom were taken above him, like Logan Cooley. So at the end of the day, when it comes to what happened with Shane Wright, what happened was he simply just had a great AHL season. And because there was less drama, because there was less, OHL, NHL, AHL compatibility issues, because there wasn't the World Juniors that he was a part of, this is a guy who just kind of was able to play his hockey his own way. Just go down there, get some points, open up the game with his offensive IQ, and not have everybody breathing down his neck wondering when he's going to play in the NHL or what he's going to do next or why he's being scratched by the NHL team. Like, it was such a strange development path last year, so unorthodox, but it worked, quite frankly, that honestly, I have to applaud the Seattle Kraken for going out there and doing what they have done to Shane Wright, because not only have they been still utilizing the best out of this prospect, but he's still looking good. Like, he has a legitimate chance of being a middle-to-top 6 center for the Seattle Kraken this upcoming year. He already was a very solid point producer for them in the recent sample he had spent with the team this previous season. So for Shane Wright, ultimately, I do think the Slafkovsky versus Wright angle has the opportunity to play itself out more a little bit longer. It's just, right now, I think Shane Wright has a little bit of a setback because he has had a lot of NHL, AHL limbo time versus Slafkovsky, who has just been, straight up doing his thing in the NHL and now has a huge contract to his name because of it. So if you're a fan of the Seattle Kraken, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the development of Shane Wright? What are your thoughts on how everything's gone so far? I'm very impressed personally. Do I think he has the potential of becoming the 90-point two-way elite center that we thought he would be? It's possible. Two-way guys, especially those who excel more so on IQ rather than skating and puck skills, those guys usually tend to age very well. Like, I think about the Nick Backstroms, I think about the Patrice Bergerons of the world. Of course, Backstrom was a pure playmaker, but Shane Wright can be that too. I do think there's a lot of potential here. It's maybe going to be difficult for him to become a number 1 center with Matty Beniers, but if he does overtake Beniers at some point and then become that true number 1 like we thought he would be in 2022, then the Seattle Kraken, you're cooking, baby. There's a lot of good to pay attention to with this team, even though some of the years in the NHL have been kind of setbacks over the past little while here. They had a really good season in 2023 as well. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Seattle Kraken and how they've developed Shane Wright up to this point, and do you think it is going well? I think it is. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.